Gender-based violence is a global issue, and we're going to explore that in a little bit more detail. First up, Zambia.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming and joining us for another installment of Cupid Sting Convos. My name is Dr. Lori Samuel. I am the founder and executive director of Cupid Sting nonprofit. We are a women's safety nonprofit where we teach women skills to protect themselves inside and outside the home. We have a special guest this morning. We are going to be talking about gender-based violence around the world. And our first stop is this morning in Zambia. And with me, I have Miss Nsofwa Sampa, and she is the founder and executive director of the Positive Movement. I'm going to turn it over to Nsofwa so she can introduce herself and tell us a little bit about Positive Movement.
Okay. Morning, everyone, though it's evening for me here in Zambia. Yes, my name is Nsofwa Petronella Sampa. I am the executive director and founder of the Positive Movement. Positive Movement is a nonprofit aiming to create or to be an inclusive society for all. We work with persons with disabilities, people living with HIV, and we've recently in our program introduced GBV.
Awesome.
We have been existing from 2018, but we actually just started really working early last year. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for introducing yourself. We are really going to delve into some of the work that you're doing. So thank you for taking the time. I'm glad that we were able to get our time zones together. So this is really good. But we've had some discussions before, and we've talked about gender-based violence. And for those that are listening, we know that this is a global issue. So according to the United Nations, 1 in 3 women will experience physical, sexual, verbal, psychological abuse at the hands of an intimate partner at least once in her lifetime. And we know that in certain communities, in certain areas, regions, countries, these numbers are amplified. So what does gender-based violence look like in Zambia? I wonder if you could share some statistics and perhaps, some characteristics of some of the incidents that you're familiar with.
Just like you have mentioned, even with in other parts of the country, we also experience the same physical, verbal, emotional, sexual, which all leads to GBV, with the women being on the vulnerable part. So in Zambia, it's the same thing. I was actually trying to do a bit of research the other day, and I came to know that we've actually had an increase from the statistics that we have from 2019 to 2020. We had about 688 cases reported in 2019, and there was an increase of 6,088 cases reported in 2019, and there was an increase of 7,282 cases reported last year. So the police also do an annual survey of how many cases, or a report, which is normally done towards the end of the year.
Right.
So we haven't done the 2021 yet, but we are hoping the cases will reduce. But from the look of things, we have more women being abused, more women being on the weaker side, or being the victims to the perpetrators. So I think that's the situation, and this is just those that are reported. Right, we are not sure about those that haven't been reported, meaning the cases can still rise.
So Talk to me a little bit about the rise. Do you think that the pandemic has anything to do with the increase in cases from 2019 to 2020?
Um, I wouldn't say it's that.
Mhm.
It may be not, because looking at the way the pandemic has come through, a number of jobs maybe have been made on standby. Like in Zambia, most of us do work outdoors. It's a new normal for us to work within the home and things like that. So I think a number of jobs maybe may have been laid down. A lot of stress was seen by men and even women. And obviously, because of maybe economic situations, it led to maybe the high rates of GBV.
Okay, makes
Yeah.
sense. And I know you talked about the police survey. Are you finding that women are comfortable reporting their abuse to the police, or do they tend to suffer in silence?
Actually, because of the increase in women empowerment in the country, we've actually had a number of women reporting. The situation is women may report, but then when they bring in their partners into the police and they see their partners in the jail cell, they kind of renounce their their report and say, no, it's fine, we'll work this out at home.
Okay.
Which at the end of the day doesn't help us. Yeah, because then the person doesn't actually get to learn or change their mind in the way that they'll treat this person, because it doesn't mean that because you have forgiven them, then they will change immediately. They do need a bit of counseling. Yeah, so like we have like a victim support unit within actually in all police stations. So this is where normally where women report their cases for any GBV cases that may have occurred in the community and things like that. Sometimes even the neighbors, because now we even have organizations that have come through that are helping in case they see something is wrong. They can help the community.
I'd like to hear
something like that. But I think the challenge is within the individual. So like we've realized that we need to talk to them and do a bit of psychological counseling to make them realize their strengths as a woman, and even to identify their rights, because they have a right to stand and disagree when a man abuses them, especially emotionally, because at the end of the day, if your woman is not being empowered or is not strong enough to stand for their own rights, it's difficult for them to actually help the community grow.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And I do love what you're saying about mechanisms in place where neighbors are now reporting, because I think we need to really start moving beyond the point where it's a private issue or an issue that we just sweep under the rug, because people know who's being abused. You know, people know people are getting hurt every day, but they're not speaking up. So I'm really happy to hear that you're saying that neighbors are reporting. So let's talk about the positive movement. Tell me some more. I know you said you founded it in 2018, but what was the impetus for it? Why did you create it? And then tell me some more about some of the projects, partnerships, some of the work that you're doing in the community, please.
Okay, so Positive Movement started in 2018. I started with a friend of mine. His name is Joe DeCrosta. He is based in the United States. So he helped me come and start up the vision and the mission statement. I had attended what we call the Mandela Washington Fellowship in 2017. That's where I met Joe. And we thought it would be best if we set up something after I'd explained to him about my story about I was born with HIV, and because of poor adherence, I ended up losing my sight. So I realized that a number of people living with persons with disabilities have had challenges in accessing knowledge and knowing about HIV and also their rights as persons with disabilities. So I thought it would be a good idea to set up something. So we struggled with the name, and then we thought maybe let's call it Positive Movement. Positive in the sense that not because of being HIV positive, but for people to think positively about themselves. Because I believe that for a person to make a difference in their life, it has to start within themselves. So our motto as Positive Movement is change begins with me. If I'm going to make a difference, let's, for instance, in GBV, if I've realized that in my home, there's a problem. If I don't talk about it, it will be difficult for me to talk to my neighbor.
Right.
So that's the attitude we want to bring in when it comes to persons with disabilities. Also, to promote acceptance and influence change towards the people in the community. So we started out with about 24 people then, and we have about 57 people within the country.
Mm-hmm.
So we are hoping for the best. In terms of funding, we've not really done, or we haven't received any funding. We've actually been working on our own, with our own monies. And it's been a lot to learn, and we are still learning, and we are still trying to do better. So we have a number of people that so far have shown a bit of interest. So in the meantime, we're just really trying to come up with programs, and we're doing the programming and writing down some projects that we can work on maybe the coming 2 to 5 years. So this year we launched our 5-year strategic plan in March.
Right.
And we hope to do more work this coming 5 years and see how better it can be, how better we can be as an organization, and see how we can just try and make people understand what we are doing, and also try and see how we can even engage the government.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you that. Are you working at all with the local government or the federal government? Are they providing any funding?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment, but we have, like, for instance, we have in the country, we have the Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities. It's a government entity. So we are in partnership with the Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities. So they help us in terms of giving us updates of what's going on, and if we need anything, or most organizations, if they want to identify an organization that they can work with, they normally go through the Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities, and then they contact us, nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in that way, it becomes more like a partnership, because they help us also in terms of trainings and things like that.
Oh, good.
We also have the Zambia Federation for Persons with Disabilities. It also helps in trying to identify our strengths and things like that. So they also analyze how we are doing as an organization. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think one of the things that we struggled with especially last year, was the venue where to be having our meetings. So mostly we would have our meetings within homes, or sometimes if we are given an office to use, we were using a friend of ours' office within the ministry. Mm-hmm. So it helped us. At least we've been working on that, but we're now trying to see if we can raise a bit of money so that we can at least have our own personal office instead of using other people's offices.
Yeah, that makes
sense. So that
sense.
at least it would be easier for people to actually know where we are found.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So could you talk to me a little bit about your 5-year strategic plan? Are there some specific projects that you're working on? And part of the reason why I ask, because I know people out there, especially now during COVID, where we can do things remotely, that maybe there are people in the audience that might want to assist on some projects. So are there some that you could talk to us about?
Okay, so one of the things we talked about in the strategic plan is, one, we need to try and come up with publicity ideas. So we created a Facebook page. It's actually a Facebook group. It's called Positive Movement. And we came up with a media team. So the media team is supposed to be doing we will be having a training on the 22nd of June. And in that training, they are going to, the idea of the training is, like in most of these screenshots that are done on social media,
Yeah, the
they are not,
graphics.
yes, they are not as friendly to persons with disabilities. So sometimes maybe you send me a picture or something, I won't actually know what's going on because I'm not able to see it. So how best can we make those friendly to persons with disabilities? So that's one of the projects we're trying to work on. So we'll be having a small training on the 22nd of this month to see what best can we do as an organization. And we'll be working with another organization to see how they can help us become better in terms of identifying some of the emojis and things that are normally shared on social media. Because and then also to also be a bit mindful to even persons who have hearing impairments, because sometimes audios are sent, but then for somebody who's got hearing impairment, they don't actually understand what's going on. So maybe if we can introduce subtitles to some of those audios that are sent or shared, it would be easier for even our friends with a hearing impairment to have an understanding of what's going on. Yeah, so that's one of the projects we're trying to implement. And then also we're also working on another one, which is we had put in the strategic plan to come up with, to go into the rural areas. So as a country, we still have some people who have traditional and cultural norms that persons with disabilities cannot do anything. They are better off left at home and things like that. So we want to be going into the communities, into the villages or in the rural areas to talk to them, educate them about their rights as persons, and even see how we can link them to other organizations that maybe can help them if it means going to school or becoming more effective to the community than just being at home. Yeah, so those are some of those are some of the projects we've also looked into.
I like that one, the education campaign. They all sound good. I just wanted to ask one quick follow-up question about your Mandela Fellowship in 2017. Do you still have contact with them? Is that a possible, other than the guy that you worked with, a possible source of funding?
Yes, they do actually. They do normally send funding requests. Yeah, they do normally send funding requests, but most of them are not. They're normally like maybe where you work with another fellow. Okay. Not necessarily that it's meant for your program or anything. And then sometimes it's a situation of maybe they'll send in relation to climate change, and you're not doing anything with climate change. So I think that has been another thing. But I did like for even my colleague to come for Joe to come from the United States, we had to apply for a reciprocal grant. So he came as one who was going to help us.
Okay.
Yeah, so they called it, I think it was called reciprocal exchanges. So we applied for it and we were given the funding, and he came and we did a bit of work together here in Zambia. And yeah, that was it. So I haven't really tried to reapply for anything else because I haven't found, we haven't come across any that has been in relation to what I'm doing.
Okay. Awesome. So just a couple more questions. I wanted to talk again about gender-based violence incidents specifically in Zambia. And really my question is, do you see a difference in those incidents involving women with disabilities? Is there a difference between those incidents and versus those where women do not live with disability?
That is a bit of a challenge because, like I said, some cases are not reported. Most persons with disabilities, if they are being abused, chances are very slim because they don't report them.
Okay.
Most of the women that we get, or most of the reports that I from my research, the highest number has been on persons who don't have disabilities. So when it comes to persons with disabilities, I haven't come across any that has reported or even come to me and told me that, okay, this is the situation I'm going through.
Right.
Yeah, so I think we'll try and see if we can find out from the police, because the report for this year is not yet out.
Right.
So I'm still trying to do a bit of research and find out from what the police have. But so far we haven't gotten any.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is probably common, not having the official statistics. I was just wondering maybe if you had like anecdotal or some stories that you've heard, because what we're finding in North America, in the US, Canada, that there are women that are being faced with gender-based violence, that are living with disabilities, that want to report or they want to leave their partners, but the service providers or the shelters are not able to accommodate them because they're not accessible. So we've been really having some of those discussions the last couple of months. And I do want to share that one of the things that we really pride ourselves on being here at Cupid Sting is being accessible and inclusive. So when you were talking about your social media team and ensuring that the postings are accessible, whether it's with captions, whether you have audio, we have been working. I have a creative team that's amazing, and we really make sure that everything is accessible and inclusive. So I was really happy to hear that. But of course, we've been having these discussions talking about what we at Cupid Sting can do better as a service provider, and then what can we do in terms of educating our partners. And we've spoken to some disability advocates and researchers, and they've provided some information that we've directly applied. But I wanted to ask you, are there some tips that you can provide that I can share with others to ensure that materials and services are more inclusive and accessible?
I think when it comes to, like, I think I gave an example, like for instance, when we send maybe voice notes or audios, if there could be a way that subtitles could be written for those that have hearing impairments, and then I don't know if it's possible to define a screenshot or like a picture. Okay, I've noticed something on Facebook. Sometimes maybe you send a photo, it will describe what the photo is or who's on the photo. But there's sometimes maybe you forwarded maybe it's a picture that has maybe it's a portrait that has maybe some words written on it. When that is forwarded, it won't actually tell me what's written. It will just read photo. So it becomes a bit difficult. So I don't know if there's a way that those can be read.
Right.
Yeah, and then sometimes even I've noticed with other PDF files, it might not act like the voice command I'm using might not be able to define what it's trying to say, what is being talked about. So it'll just, yeah. So I don't know if there's another way that, I don't know.
So
But
tell me, are Word files, are those able to be picked up?
Yes, Word files, yeah, those are okay. Word docs, yeah, those are okay. But when it comes to PDF, it normally doesn't go through. I haven't seen PowerPoint is also okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I don't know what's wrong with the PDF file. Sometimes it doesn't just read at all.
It's probably, and I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking it's probably because it's locked, so it's a more secure file. So maybe
Yeah.
there's some kind of, whatever the lock is, the software is not able to read it. But I actually did not know that. So that is some very useful information just in terms of communication that, if I'm sending you a file, it should at least be in Word so that you can read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then also to ensure that photos have some descriptors so you can use the alt text so that you know what's in the photo. Okay.
Yes.
Are there any other tips that you could provide?
Mm, I'm still trying to find out others, but I think those are the ones that I've noticed so far.
Okay. Okay.
Those are the ones because the rest I think are okay because yeah, unless maybe I don't know about other social media platforms, but I think the rest are okay
Okay.
because
Okay.
yeah, I think everything else is okay because even when it comes to emailing, it's not as difficult. It's just yeah.
Awesome, awesome. But if you do think of anything, please email me because we're all about just educating. So, we will put the tips out just so that people are aware and can make some adjustments to how they post.
Yes.
And so far, I just want to really thank you so much for joining us this morning, this afternoon, your time, and talking to us about your work and what's going on in Zambia. Because as we've talked about before, nothing's really new. It's just that the location is different. And I
Yes.
totally agree with you that if we start or continue to empower women, especially those
Yes.
most vulnerable, and start educating them about their rights, I think we will start to
Yes.
see some shifts. So before we end, I just want you to let us know and to let people out there know if they want to help you with some of the efforts, like with your strategic plan. How can they reach you? How can we find you after this call?
So I'm on Facebook as Nsofwa Petronella Sampa,
Okay.
and they can also reach me via email, which is Nsofwa Sampa 33 at gmail.com. So Nsofwa spelled as NSOFWA SAMPA 33 at gmail.com. Or better still, they can also reach us on our Positive Movement Zambia at gmail.com. That's our email address.
Positive Movement Zambia
at gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, I have a feeling that people will be reaching out. I don't know if I ever shared with you that I actually went to Howard University, and when it comes to
that's nice.
Yeah, recognizing and doing work, specifically to uplift and influence lives more positively in the diaspora. That is the place. And one of my mentors who leads one of the research centers on campus has an affinity and a love for the continent of Africa. So my mind is just kind of firing right now, and I will definitely be sending her an email, because if we can help to get you some funding so you can continue this work and work out your strategic plan for the next few years, I just think it would be fantastic. So please, please, please reach out if you need anything. I thank you for the time. If there's anything else that we can do, and I'm going to give you the last word if there's something you want to say.
I'm actually just humbled for being part of this platform. And like yeah, like mentioned, if anybody would want to help us in any way,
Mm,
they can reach us and we can let them know what we really need because we really want to do our work on the ground. And I think the only challenge we've had is the funding, but we hope for the best. We are very hopeful and we believe we can do better if we can just have the right resources. And it can even be in different ways. Yeah. So we are very glad and I'm so happy that I was part of this platform. And we'll continue having communication and we can talk more via email. So
absolutely.
thank you and everybody stay blessed
Thank you. Take
and
care.
keep safe from COVID.
Yeah, you too. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon and a good evening. Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for attending.